and welcome back to the In the Hunt podcast. My name is Jake Mendel, joined as always by Topher Cochran, and today we have a very special guest. We have Greg Likens, someone who's been around the Dolphins for at least 5 years now. He's always been head of pulse of the team. And Greg, before we jump into Dolphins talk, where can we listen to you now?
Yeah, good to join you guys. Jay, Chris, good to talk to both of you. You can hear me both on 790 The Ticket and 5 WQAM in Miami. So depending on the schedule, I keep active on my Twitter account when I'm going to be on, at Greg Likens. And so, you can still hear me on the radio airwaves of South Florida.
And a lot of people know you for your time with the Finsiders, working for the Dolphins. You did a show 5 days a week covering the team. And I was watching the game the other night, and they have the Dolphins hired, Dick Stockton, these guys to cover the games. It's owned by the Dolphins. You worked for the Dolphins. Was it ever tough for you? Did you ever get into a situation where maybe you were frustrated about a game as a fan or something, but you had to bite your tongue because, hey, these guys are writing my paycheck?
Yes, that was a constant struggle, and I don't want anybody to feel bad for me. I had a great 2 years working on the Finsiders, got great experience, and really enjoyed the people I worked with, especially the former players and our behind-the-scenes crew. But as somebody who went to school to study journalism and learn about the morals and ethics of journalism, you're told that you're supposed to speak the truth, and so at times we had to kind of paint that truth in a different color, so to speak. And we couldn't be as harsh as I think many others have been in the market. And, my second season there, Joe Philbin was fired 4 games into the year. So it wasn't a good season. Neither time did they make the playoffs. And so when that happens, obviously things aren't going well. So my tact and my approach was always, if we were going to be critical of the team, which I think we were fair about, was to use facts to back it up. So if the run defense wasn't very good, we'd use statistics to back it up, and then we could open up the conversation that way. We weren't allowed to, and we would never call for anybody's jobs, but that certainly was a balancing act that we had to constantly be aware of.
For sure. And since you were always, around the facility and things like that, I'm sure players were more comfortable with you compared to a lot of people. Can you think of a specific player or coach that you maybe would see, hey, we're interviewing so-and-so, and we know this is going to be a fun interview. He likes us. We like them, type of thing?
Yeah, there were a number of the players were really good. I think from a coaching standpoint, Darren Rizzi was always great. And Darren Rizzi, who's still with the team, but the season that Joe Philbin did get fired, Dan Campbell took over as the interim head coach and did a few interviews with Coach Campbell, but then Darren Rizzi really became our guy every week because I had previously sat down with Joe Philbin after every game day to discuss whatever had happened, and so then Rizzi became that guy, and I thought he was always entertaining and fair. From a player standpoint, there were a number of players who were really, really good and opened up with us. I thought Jared Odrick in the one season that I crossed over was always really interesting. Chris McCain, I thought had a great personality and always opened up with us. Enjoyed talking to Jarvis Landry. There are a number of others, but I do think that there was a comfort level because they knew that, I wasn't going to spring on them anything crazy that was going to put them in a bad spot. Right. So I think they did relax a little bit more and felt pretty comfortable because they would see me around the facility and saw me within that context.
Exactly.
So Greg, what was the best moment and the worst moment while you were covering the team and working for them? Like, can you dive into that a little bit?
Oh man, that's a good question. I haven't thought about that in a while. But I don't know. I think, some of the best moments, and I apologize for not being more specific, just were some of the big wins because in addition to doing the Finsider show every weekday, I did the game day broadcast. So I did the pregame, halftime, postgame. And so I just remember some of the big wins that they had, I think people look back maybe few and far between. But when they did, it was always a rush, especially the home games at the stadium, and the crowd stuck around, and we were doing our broadcast from the stadium. That was a lot of fun. I think this is kind of humorous, and so I don't mean to criticize anybody here, but one of the lower moments from a broadcasting standpoint was we did a draft day or draft night broadcast for the first round of the draft in 2015, and so we were outside of Hard Rock Stadium, kind of on the plaza. They built a tent. A bunch of fans were there. The atmosphere was terrific. But when they made the draft pick, Devante Parker being the first-round pick, number 14 overall, all of that was great, and people were pumped up about it. But we got him on the phone, and I learned very quickly he's a man of very few words. Mm-hmm. So that may go down as the worst interview I've ever done in my career, because one, he didn't say very much. Two, right. The acoustics were terrible for us because we had a crowd there. There was music playing and stuff. And so part of it was we weren't sure if we just weren't hearing him properly. As it turned out, it was bad audio and also just an interview subject that, despite the fact his dream had just been made by being a first-round pick, he really didn't have much to say to us.
Right, right.
Who was your best interview?
Yeah, I mean, I referenced Jared Odrick. I really enjoyed talking to him because, you know, most of these guys are comfortable talking football. He was comfortable talking about pretty much anything else. I mean, he could talk football, but he enjoyed really going across the board. One of the most significant and meaningful interviews that I ever did was Mike Pouncey immediately after he signed his contract extension, and asked him about it right off the bat, and he broke down and was starting to cry because it was just so impactful for him and his family to get that type of money. So that always stays with me. And also, I mean, you know, I was the first person, and granted, you know, I worked for the team, so it was set up that way, but I was the first person to talk to Ndamukong Suh upstairs in the facility right outside the room in which he signed his what at that point was the record-breaking contract for a non-quarterback in National Football League history. So some of those certainly stay with me as pretty memorable. One other, I guess, now that I'm going through memory lane here, I got a chance to go inside the defensive lineman's meeting room and sat down with Cam Wake in a pair of recliners that the veterans were using in the D-line meeting room. So that was probably the most comfortable interview I've ever done.
That's fair. A little background. I just got my master's degree in sports journalism from Quinnipiac, so I did a little research on you. I went onto your LinkedIn, and I found your res reel from when you were at Super Bowl week and the media week and how crazy it was. And you had some pretty unique interviews on that res reel. Who was the one person that, you know, came, sat down next to you, and you kind of thought to yourself, oh, God, I cannot believe I'm interviewing, you know, who?
Yeah, that's a really good question because I've been fortunate to talk to a number of people, and the Super Bowl kind of, it leads to that, right? You got a lot of people all in the same place. They're looking to promote different things. You know, I didn't interview this person, but I got in San Francisco for Super Bowl 50. I had a chance to chat just casually with Jerry Rice because I was there with Sam Madison. So Sam Madison, Jerry Rice, and I found myself standing next to the two of them and kind of, you know, I didn't contribute much to the conversation, but I was there because Sam was nice enough to introduce me to him. And meanwhile, like 10 feet away, there's a throng of 49ers fans just waiting for Jerry Rice to turn around and acknowledge them and sign autographs and stuff. But in terms of on camera and non-Dolphins related, I think some of the non-sports people were pretty cool. Interviewed Alyssa Milano because she's got a clothing line related to the National Football League. Josh Duhamel, and then one that's now is an infamous interview. We did interview Papa John.
Yeah, I saw that. I laughed pretty hard when I saw him sitting there.
So at the time it was cool, and it was great because, you know, I was with Sam Madison. Sam went to Louisville. You know, obviously Papa John is a Louisville fan, and then, you know, at the time everything was fine, PC and no issues, and now looking back on it certainly is a bit humorous.
So Greg, now let's kind of switch to the current team now. Based off what you've seen, how do you feel about the team entering? I mean, we got preseason, we got the last game coming up in 2 days? Actually, tomorrow, if I'm not mistaken. How do you feel about the team starting off against Tennessee, and what do you see them doing in Week 1?
Yeah, Week 1 right around the corner, thankfully, because the preseason, some of these games have been a little tough to watch. Overall, you know, I'm looking at this team, and I don't have a lot of confidence that they're going to do great things in 2018. My hope is that they're going to build towards 2019. I know that, you know, some people are more optimistic than others, but looking at what they're going to accomplish. I think a lot of it's just going to come down to Ryan Tannehill. That may be oversimplifying things, but one, can he stay healthy? And then more significantly, two, what level will we see him perform? Because, I think we saw the best of Ryan Tannehill in the final 8 games before he went out in 2016 with the first knee injury. And if he can get back to that form, then I think they've got a chance to do something. But if not, if it doesn't come together, if they aren't with enough talent on this roster or high-end talent with some of the notable names that they let go, then I think, generally speaking, this is going to be another season in which they're going to be a middle-of-the-road football team. That's my gut feeling at this point, but I certainly hope they prove me wrong.
Absolutely, and that's where we kind of got the name In the Hunt, because it just seems they're always, in the middle of the pack. A couple games with mistakes that, put them down to 7-9 or 8-8. It seems like this offseason they signed a lot of different type of guys. They loaded up at some positions like defensive end and wide receiver compared to, having big holes at other positions, maybe like defensive tackle. What signing kind of had you scratching your head, like you're not really sure if this is really the right move for the team?
Yeah, you know what? I may go back to last season to answer that question because, and now, in hindsight, it's easier for me to say this, but the one that kind of scratched my head was the T.J. McDonald signing.
Right.
And they gave him a contract extension while he was facing an 8-game suspension. I've never heard of that before in NFL history. And maybe I don't know my history well enough, but I've never seen a guy get a lucrative contract extension while he's going to be sidelined for half the season because of drugs. But, hey, and then when they drafted Micah Fitzpatrick, I was scratching my head because I'm thinking, not about Fitzpatrick. I think he's a great player. I think he's got the potential to be really, really good. But I just wasn't sure how they're going to fit everybody on the field. As it turns out, it looks like they're going to get him on the field because he's going to play the nickel corner position. I think largely because he's a good player, but also because they haven't been able to find some reliable options. Xavier Howard, not named Bobby McCain. But that's one that I think about. In terms of some of the others, really, Brock Osweiler, I scratched my head at that. The Bryce Petty signing. I just think that the backup quarterback position, I don't want to overstate things because if Tannehill stays healthy, it's not going to matter. But if he doesn't, and we all know the injury rate in the National Football League, then I just think the Dolphins season is over. If
right.
Osweiler or fails, whoever wins the game, wins that position, is going to be relied upon to win football games. I just don't have any confidence that they can do that.
Exactly. When you covered the team, you mentioned they had Joe Philbin for a little while, and one thing Philbin was notorious for was limiting snaps, whether it be Lamar Miller can't get more than like 20 touches, and he'd rarely play his rookies. Do you think that now, this Gase version where, he's throwing everyone into the fire, it seems like Baker's going to start, Gesicki's going to start, Fitzpatrick's going to start. Do you think you could have a lot of trust in having that many youthful starters, I guess?
Yeah, it's going to be really fascinating to see how that plays out, right? Because, I thought Dave Hyde from the Sun Sentinel had an interesting column about this week about how the Dolphins are hoping that their young players play above their age and that their older players play, lower than their age because they're relying on quite a mix of young guys, as you just mentioned, who don't have any experience, who are going to be relied upon for pretty big roles on this team. And then some of these older veterans who are expected to have larger roles, but we're just not sure if they can be durable and can stand the test of time. So in terms of the young guys, I love the upside of Fitzpatrick and Gesicki especially. But that linebacking core, you mentioned Baker and even McMillan. McMillan still has shown some rust. I'm hoping that, he lives up to his potential. And Baker is a small guy, but a fast guy. So knowing their inexperience and knowing the lack of depth at linebacker, that does concern me. But I do really like the upside of Gesicki and Fitzpatrick among those young guys that you're referencing.
How do you feel about what the wide receivers coming in? Because, obviously you get rid of Jarvis Landry. Those catches got to go somewhere. Is it Amendola? Is it going to be Steele, Parker, Grant, Wilson? How do you feel about that core right there?
Yeah, I'm underwhelmed by the wide receiving core. And, I realize that Ryan Tannehill, I think, is the most polarizing figure in South Florida sports right now. But before him, it was Jarvis Landry, at least when we were in that in-between phase. We weren't sure whether he was going to come back and play on the franchise tag or whether they're going to get rid of him. And so I know a lot of people have criticized him. A lot of people were happy to see him go based on the contract that he received. And certainly he has rubbed a lot of people the wrong way with some of his public comments since then. But, for 4 years, that guy was the lifeblood of the offense.
For sure.
For as much as you can criticize his yards per catch, I think that guy was nicknamed Juice for a reason. He provided, I think, both sides of the ball with a lot of energy and enthusiasm that was much needed. So I'm just skeptical about who's going to fill in and get the receptions that you just referenced, because Devante Parker's hurt again, and we're not sure if he's ever going to come close to his potential. Kenny Stills, I think, is a really solid football player and does what he does well, but I don't know. He's not a lead guy, in my opinion. Amendola will make catches when he's healthy, but I'm not sure how durable he can be because he didn't play for as big of a name as he is because he played with the Patriots. He never played a ton of snaps during his career there, so I'm not sure how his body's going to hold up. And then I do like the upside of Albert Wilson, and I'm excited about seeing how they implement in the offense with with different types of plays that they haven't shown during the preseason. But Jakeem Grant, if a 6 wide receiver like an Isaiah Ford makes the team, I just don't see a guy who's the lead guy there. Now they'll distribute it more evenly, but I don't know if they have enough playmakers to make a significant impact at that position.
So, Greg, I just want to let you know that you're basically one of us. We constantly try to describe the positive things of the team, but there's just so much uncertainty with them. You don't know how, we've seen what Tannehill's best year was 2 years ago, and is that good enough to get them over the hump of, just winning a division or maybe even making the playoffs again? We have question marks with the defense in terms of health, and you're going out there starting a bunch of young guys, and on top of the offense, you just don't know what you're going to get. And what's been the best unit so far, or the best thing so far that you've seen? Is it Kenyon Drake? Is it the offensive line, like Tannehill, Adam Gase? What is it?
Yeah, I'd probably go on the offensive side of the ball and say either the offensive line, and there's still a lot to be proven in the regular season, but I do like the fact they've got their 5 guys. Mm-hmm. And they've stuck with it, and they've built some cohesiveness because, you guys know every off season into training camp, it seems like there's question marks at some position on the offensive line in years past, and we were never quite sure who was going to play where or feel that confident about it. They've had their 5 guys. They've been playing together, so I feel better about that position than I have in many, many years. But if it's not them, then I do think it's the running back spot because Kenyon Drake just continues to impress. Frank Gore, we haven't seen him much in the preseason, but, by all accounts behind the scenes, he's been terrific. And then I do like the upside of Balaj. So probably those 2 positions I would look at and say I feel the best about. But to your point, there's still a lot of uncertainty on both sides of the football entering 2018.
It's funny you mentioned the offensive line. One of the trends we've seen under Gase is, slow starts to the season. And 2 years ago, it was cutting 3 members of the offensive line. And last year it was trading Jay Ajayi. If you had to guess, shake your crystal ball a little bit, what's going to be the, roster shakeup come week 4 or 5 if the season doesn't start how Gase and the franchise envisions?
Ooh, big roster shakeup. I don't know. I'm trying to think of what could happen. I certainly did not envision the Jay Ajayi thing happening last year.
Exactly.
But I don't think any of us envisioned Lawrence Timmons going AWOL either, right? So,
it's going to happen. Something's going to happen.
Yeah, or a hurricane, delaying the start of the season for the Dolphins, or heck, an assistant football coach snorting lines of who knows what in his office. So I think last season was pretty unique. I think we can all say that. This year, though, I think probably the biggest shockwave that could occur is at the quarterback position. So I don't think they'll ever bench Ryan Tannehill based on what they have in the depth chart, but perhaps it's just an injury that unfortunately takes place with him. And maybe that's what we talk about as a big roster shakeup. But in terms of a guy that they might trade, maybe it's Devante Parker. Maybe they get rid of him. I guess as I talk my way through this, maybe that's the guy that they finally give up on as a failure, so to speak, as a first-round pick in Miami and get something in return and just move on from his act because, I don't think he's a bad guy. I actually think he's a good person and means well and everything, but clearly things haven't worked out. So they may just decide to cut the cord there.
You're spot on with Parker. I think we're all we see the potential, and it's kind of just dangling.
It's
in
obvious.
Front of us. Yeah,
it's so obvious.
Who knows? Maybe since he's getting so comfortable with them, Kiko Alonso will be traded to the Ravens. That might be something we see in the near future. But Greg, thank you so much for joining us. This was a lot of fun. You were able to offer us some really cool insight that we don't get to hear a lot.
Yeah, it's been fun, guys. Enjoyed talking about it, and looking forward to this season getting going so we can actually analyze some regular season games, right?
Cannot wait.
Do you think they're going to win week 1?
If you ask me right now, I'll say no, but I hope I'm wrong. How about that?
Okay.
Perfect.
Okay. Perfect answer.
Thank you very much, Greg. I hope you have a great night, man.
See you, Greg.
All right. Guys do. Take it easy.
Yeah, Jake, after listening to Greg, I'm not going to lie, I was very surprised at how critical he was of the team because it kind of just dove in when he just, says, I'm not sure what to expect.
Right.
I think they'll be like a middle-of-the-pack team. And it took me back because I guess that when I see Greg, I always see him maybe like a pro Dolphin type guy because of his history with the team.
Exactly.
But then I had to remember, all right, this guy hosts a radio show. He has opinions. Mm-hmm. And so when he kind of he was just critical of him. He was honest. We don't know what to expect, and we don't know, what everything will look like. And it was very it was good to hear. It felt good to hear because I guess we agreed with him.
Yeah,
right?
It makes us
Is
feel a little less
he one
crazy.
of us?
Yeah, we feel a little less crazy now. But
yeah, Greg Likens
so
made us not crazy.
It's not to be not optimistic about the team, but he said it perfectly where we don't know. Pump the brakes with all the expectations because there really aren't any right now because this team has a lot of questions, a lot of unknowns. And yeah, it's cool to hear him say that, have the same concerns as us.
And so once he voiced those concerns, it just kind of, it made us feel more important. Right? We feel we're important now. We're important guys now in the bids.
We think we know what we're doing just a little more. We got that little ego boost. But we're 1 week away from the regular season. Yeah,
and I have no idea what to expect from this team. I really don't. I don't know if they're going to play good. We'll get I think we'll get 2 good drives out of it, but who knows the results? I feel like if we were to make a bingo game, it's going to be Tannehill knee injury return, missed 20 games. Actually, no, missed more. Yeah, right, missed 20 games. Definitely Adam Gase trading Jarvis Landry. We could do a bingo with the Dolphins. Should we do a bingo?
We kind of talked. I think we're gonna do it. What we're thinking of doing for you guys is setting up bingo boards where we're gonna put a bunch of scenarios for this season, and whoever gets bingo first, we'll give them a copy of Madden. They could even pick the system. All you're gonna have to do, we're gonna have this ready for the regular season. All you have to do is follow MIA in the Hunt on Twitter, and then screenshot that you reviewed and rated us. Send it to us. We're going to send you a bingo card. And whoever fills out their bingo card first will send you a copy of Madden, your system. And you know what? If you already have Madden, you can pick the game. How about that?
That's pretty badass.
Sounds pretty badass, is right. And even better, Topher, should we give a little hint of what we're planning next week?
Yeah, it's it's basically our very obscure Royal Rumble. We're going to have a Royal Rumble. I don't even know how we're going to do it. Jake just told me this morning. I got off of work, and Jake says, hey, check the DMs. We're going to have a Royal Rumble. So I got to kind of sift through and, prioritize who I want to throw over the top rope first.
Exactly. So we're planning on having the Finsider Radio guys. We're going to have one Titans fan, and basically it's just going to be us just bombarding them with the homerism.
Spitting on them.
Exactly. Kicking dirt all over them. It's going to be great. It's going to be a mess like every wrestling event. It's going to be perfect. Topher,
I can't wait to put our Titans correspondent on the line and then hang up on him right after. Just keep doing that over and over again. Hey, Donnie, are you on? Hang up. Donnie, are you on? And keep hanging up.
Oh, dude, it's going to be great. But I guess here's the real question. Are we going to do 2 episodes next week? Get ready for a little football?
Yeah, we got a loaded show. We have we're gonna start putting our shows on Mondays, or at least a day after the game, and then another show later on. So we'll go 2 next week, 2 after that, and if it's something good enough, we'll go 3.